recognizing your image in every person here. Tonight, Father, I pray for our servants, our mayor, our city manager, our city staff, and our city council. I pray, God, and give thanks for the way they serve and choose to serve on your behalf. Father, tonight, in this room, we are complex human beings. We carry burdens, we carry joy and hope. We trust you alone and that you will hold us together. And I pray, God, tonight for love and peace. Help us love and trust you even more. May our fears, our wounds be more than our accomplishments tonight, God, as we trust you in all things. Father, tonight we lean on you and your everlasting arms, and we ask, God, through love, through your mercy, and through your grace, that you are held high tonight, that you are, God, honored and glorified through this all that is said, and God, may you be seen in all that is done. And it's in Jesus Christ's holy name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. The first item that we have to address tonight is the agenda approval. What is the council's pleasure on approving the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same, and there is none. Item 5 is approval of minutes of our city council regular meeting of December the 11th, 2023, and B, our city council special work session meeting of December the 28th, 2023. What is the action that council would like to take on approving of the minutes?
Make a motion that we approve those sets of minutes of the city council meeting of December the 11th and the work session on December 28th.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of A, city council regular meeting of December the 11th, and B, our city council special work session meeting of December the 28th, 2023. All in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same, and it is unanimous. Next item is the mayor's comments, and I will be brief tonight. I know a lot of people want to see the championship football game, so we want to get out of here at a reasonable time. On December the 20th, the city held the ribbon cutting for the reopening of Westgate Park. A large crowd was in attendance, complimenting how great the park looks. There are certain selected touch-ups left to do, and I urge all our citizens take the time to drive out there and look at all the upgrades that have been completed to this park. City Manager Brian Dalton has informed the council that Mr. Lance Hudson has been officially employed as the city's new recreation director. Mr. Hudson is due to begin his duties on February the 5th, and congratulations go out to Mr. Hudson as we wish him immense success as director of our recreation department. With the additional funds we are receiving from the state, plans are to replace the roof on the historical museum. The city also has plans to pave the parking area at the community building. Parking in this area becomes desirable as Main Street continues to grow, especially with the addition of new eating facilities. This will be another enhancement to draw people to our downtown area. This concludes the mayor's comments. We'll move to the next item in our agenda, and this is consideration of a public hearing in reference to rezoning Terrace Estates, and the Planning and Zoning Director, Richard Elam, will lead us through this. At this time, I would entertain a motion that we enter into public hearing. We have a motion and 2 seconds to enter into public hearing. We are now considered in public hearing. And I would now turn it over to our planning and zoning director, Richard Elam, who would like to speak to us concerning Terrace, Estates. And if you'll go on your laptop, that will begin on page 25.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start out with responses on that was advertised and mailed out to all adjoining property owners. I only had 3 responses. Mr. Vance, Aaron Vance, he lived at 209 Black School Road. A Miss Sumner, who lived at 213 Black Rock School Road. And none of them voiced any disconcerts. And the other gentleman came in the office today. He owns about 3/4 of the property to the west on it. It's Mr. Alvin Gene Dellinger. And he'll be talking to the council during this public hearing. He has some concerns on water runoff. What will the developer do to help prevent more runoff? Okay, I'll go through what you have on your computer now. Page 25 and 26 is just the application for this rezoning. It's currently zoned R12, as are all the houses to the east of it. But they are applying to an R9 cluster development. Not R9 zoning, but R9 cluster development. I need to point that out, there's a difference. R9 is for 9,000 square foot lots, but the R9 cluster is for 6,000 square foot lots. Everybody understand that? I'm gonna ask that every time to make sure we understand.
I'm glad you did.
It's confusing. Your page 27 is the records of events. You know, we notified the property owners and the gentleman who submitted the application on October the 31st, 23 for the property to be rezoned, what I just mentioned, from R12 to R9. At the regular meeting of the Cherryville Planning Board on November the 20th, after a lengthy meeting, the planning board made a recommendation to the city council was denial of the request. At the regular meeting of the City of Cherryville Council on December 11th, we set a public hearing date for tonight, January 8th. December 14th, parcel 158-768 was posted of tonight's meeting. Adjacent property owners and the applicant and, like I said, the property owners were notified by first class US mail, and the city hall was posted of this notice of public hearing tonight. And the legal notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Eagle on December the 20th, 2023, and December 27th, 2023. The properties, the parcels to the south and to the east are zoned R12, as was this 33 acres. The plat shows how the would be laid out with 2 entrances, a cul-de-sac, a walking trail, sidewalks, etc., which Mr. Upshaw will explain also. Page 29 is, as you can see, I just circled it. That is the 33 acres that are west of the houses on Black Rock School Road. Page 30 shows the zoning. All to the south is the Delview community. And on the other side of Black Rock School Road to the east and the Dewey Beam Estates, they are all zoned R15. Page 31, if you look at the bottom of the page, I made a circle around the large parcel that they're asking to be rezoned to the R9 cluster development. And it does go along with the proposed future land use map. You can see all that brown in there. Page 32, again, is Mr. Upshaw. He's telling what things will be in place at this new development. New
you'll have curb and gutter, sidewalks on one side of the street, a walking trail behind it. Homeowners Association to manage the common areas and keep the subdivision in good condition, which is great. It places upon them the high grass, no junk cars, et cetera, which is really a good thing. We have tree buffer along the back. We maintain a lot of the trees that are already existing to help make that buffer thicker. And the lots have at least 6 feet side setbacks to keep distance between the houses. Our ordinance was showing that it was 5 feet, but they're gonna increase that to 6 feet. So that way you've got the houses 12 feet apart instead of 10 feet apart. And there'll be street trees along the streets. Now, page 33, I'll go over this cluster development. Got really special use permit and like I said,
Change it or restrict it in any way, but I know we're very lenient on what we can ask for, so Creekway and Strap on the inner city, all the land is outside that area, so.
the planning board asked what it was zoned, and I did not know at that time that it's zoned R1, which is rural.
Okay. Mr.
Growing up, being on farm all my entire life, I've seen the flow of water when where the development is going to be was yet to 10 being half area to a couple of feet. My concern is the runoff, and I'm glad to again say the developer at least has more than 10 going up. I know how much water comes off of that ground when it didn't have a canopy. Now we do have a canopy, and we're down to a couple, 2-3 feet in the tributaries. So my concern is, and also at the bottom of those tributaries, sediments then get into the wetland, and all that's going into Moss Lake. And so I'd like to ask the council, because eventually all of us are going to move forward. But I still have my well and the springs that are contributors to these 2 creeks. But that's the one thing I want the group to consider is the runoff and taking care of the sediments, that they don't end up, because in the 90s, there was EPA and the USDA did a study of the sediments that were flowing into Moss Lake. And part of those actually came from
Not reasonable, then there's no reason to go into the special use permit, but if it's accepted, then we have to go into the special use permit and vote on each one of those. And like I said, Mr. Dillon will speak whenever he has the option to speak. If there's any other questions I can answer now that you do not understand, I'll be happy.
Do you recall what problems the planning board had with it?
They just gave the denial. I think it's the size of the lots, probably, is the only thing. We had 3 new members on the planning board that were not there for the other approvals of the one on Requay Road or Straps. So we had 3 new members out of 7 on the planning board.
Those 2 have been approved, all.
Sir?
The 2 that have been approved so far, they're supposed to,
Those 2 were approved. Yes.
is it 9,000,
These are
6,000?
Or 6,000.
6,000.
I don't know when the time dates were, but I think the current city council, except for Ms. Hovis, was approved those.
Just couldn't remember if it was 6 or 9.
it is, Mr. Green.
6.
It's the R9 cluster,
Oh, okay.
the 6,000 square feet.
Okay. The same as what they're asking for.
Yes, sir.
I read the minutes of the planning and zoning, and I thought that the members in that meeting, according to the minutes, were very thorough. I thought the questions were very good, and I thought they were very thorough.
whatever.
Hey,
Mr.
does
Dellinger
any
or-
council member have any other questions for our planning and zoning director? I think he's, basically, explained the difference between the R9 and the R12 and the R12 cluster. And if we go with the R12 cluster, that's 8,000 square foot lots. And would that be with the 6-foot setback also?
Yes. It says 5, but our builders agreed to the 6. He has that stated on the preliminary plat.
Okay. And would that be consistent with what we have with Strap Acres and Requay?
That would
Yes.
be- Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, we've done it for 2 other divisions. I'm just saying, how can we change it or restrict it in any way? But I know we're very lenient on what we can ask for, so. This, this sort of reminds me the way that Requay and Strap Acres are, because it's all out of the city. I mean, what we call the inner city. All the land is outside that area, so.
The planning board asked what it was zoned, and I did not know at that time that it's zoned R1, which is rural.
Okay. Okay, if it's okay with council, we'll have Mr. Dellinger, Mr. Alvin Dellinger has signed up to speak during the public hearing. He wasn't necessary to sign up, but you do have the floor now. If you'll come to the podium, state your name and address, and
I'm Alvin Gene Dellinger, 1820 W Road. Mr. Mayor and members of council, the reason I'm here is the concern of the runoff. The farm is a North Carolina Century farm. It's been recognized. Actually, it's old enough now to be a bicentennial farm. And I'm concerned there are 2 tributaries that feed into Muddy Fork Creek from the development. The water is flowing all west down the hill. And what I'm concerned about is, and I was glad to see the developer already has 1 retention pond. That will need to be large, and I want to explain to you why. Growing up, being on farm all my entire life, I've seen the flow of water where the development is going to be was in cotton, corn, and wheat. And on a summer dam burst, I've seen the creek get to 10 feet. The creek number 1, the first tributary, to be as high as 10 feet in there when we didn't have a canopy. Now the development has a canopy in addition to the houses that are there. I would encourage the developer to leave as much canopy as possible, because now my tributary 1 is flowing at about anywhere from 2, 3, and 4 feet. And if it gets to up to 8, it will wash out my entrance to the farm. And then on the back, tributary number 2 retains the water.
Mr. Dellinger, could you take this large
Okay,
picture and show us where you're talking? Are you talking here or over here?
okay, we're talking about this part where you see the blue pond.
Right, you're talking about down here.
That's correct. What I'm showing, if you can see this one, you can see the 2 tributaries. One is here. That's 1 tributary. The second tributary is at this point. Okay? And the back one, now is about 2 feet. And we have heavy rain. Like tomorrow, if we have 2 days of continuous heavy rain, we will have 3 to 4 feet in tributary number 1. And in tributary number 2, we'll have a couple of feet. My concern is the runoff. And I'm glad to again say the developer at least has 1 retention pond. I'd like for them to consider putting a second one in, because, and my reasoning is, when I was growing up, I know how much water comes off of that ground when it didn't have a canopy. Now we do have a canopy, and we're down to a couple, 2-3 feet in the tributaries. So my concern is, and also at the bottom of those tributaries are EPA wetland, designated wetland. And the question would be then, how the water gets pollutants, sediments, then get into the wetland. And all that's going into Moss Lake. And so I'd like to ask the council and the developer to consider a second sediment pool so that we keep the quality of Moss Lake, because eventually all of us are going to be water. I still have my well and the springs that are contributors to these two creeks. But that's the one thing I want the group to consider is the runoff and taking care of the sediments, that they don't end up, because in the 90s, there was EPA and the USDA did a study of the sediments that were flowing into Moss Lake. And part of those actually came from the farm, which amazed me that they came to see me about, and we talked about doing the retention even in that sediment one creek. But then they decided against it, instead of putting rock up and slowing the water down, they decided to let nature take its course. And therefore, the creek now is about 1.5 inches, 1.5 foot deeper than it was when I was growing up. Because they had always cut the ditch banks back and piled the lumber or the trees into the bottom of that. And of course, that hasn't been done in about 25 or 30 years at this point. But that's my biggest concern, is we take care of the sediment, it doesn't end up in the muddy fork and then into Moss Lake.
Where do you think that other retention pond ought to
Oh. Well, I think that what it is, you've got the development, and all the water from here is coming into tributary 2, and the water from here is coming into tributary 1. And like I say, I'm glad to see this one. It'll need to be large enough to be able to take care of the water that comes off, especially if the canopy is taken out. And it will have to be taken out for these houses to be built. So I would encourage that the canopy, as much of it as we can, retain for the protection of the water. We're all more environmentally conscious today than we've ever been. I didn't think about environment when I was growing up, and I'm 80 years old. And that's my concern. We all need to be concerned about environment when we think about water pollution and the chemicals. And even USDA, I have a report I do each year on fertilizers that I've used and the pesticides that I've used. I have to report that to USDA and the North Carolina Department of Agriculture as part of my yearly report.
So you're
So
saying so the pond ought to be up here?
it needs to take care, this water that's here comes this way.
Yeah.
And it needs to be taken care of somewhere in here, or no, not even where it past this, because you've got the drainage from here comes this direction.
So it would be
See
on
anything-
this side of the walking trail.
Yes, and I'm glad to see the walking trail. And I hope the canopy will be preserved for that walking trail, because it gets hot in August, in July and August. And you're gonna have walk, I like that idea of the walking path. But the canopy be preserved as much of it as possible, so that those that walk, will be able to enjoy the walk without having a hot sun. And there's plenty of trees there now to do that.
And that loop they have there could be around the pond.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. And the big thing is, these are pines, a lot of this is pine timber. And you think about, if we, in our science classes, and so many years ago, we talked about the carbon dioxide and the evergreens being responsible for producing the oxygen both in summer and in winter. So that's one thing I think that ought to be considered in terms of canopy, so as much as it can. Cherryville has the good benefit of having good quality air. You go to Yesenia, it's not. You go to Charlotte, it's not. We do have better air, and I think it's because we still have not taken our canopies away and destroyed.
Gene, you still go into your property off of Bellevue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's that same one, and there's where the danger of the creek there that's gonna wash out the
That's
road into your house,
That's correct.
because it's low.
Yes.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
and see that I've seen the spring underwater before. In the spring house.
I've seen it, I've worked at Bass Lake down in that
Yes.
area too, so,
Yeah. And of course, that's one of the reasons that Dad and I both went bothering to attend the bottoms and plan because of the wetland designation. And my concern is all the sediment runoff, you get 8 or 10 feet of water coming down through the first there, you're gonna have a lot of tear out of the drainage system and that would be into the wetlands.
Is that the same, creek that runs into Doc Hunt's?
Yes. Yes, that's Mayport. Yes, ma'am. So that would be my consideration, that the developer look at having an additional retention pond for the sediment. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. And like I said, this is the area.
Environmental lesson.
Tributaries.
Uh-huh. Okay.
When you look at it, when you're up on Devon, you don't think about the tributaries, but there are 2 of them from the farm leading into Muddy Fork in the cross flow.
I used to own some
Thank y'all.
land down.
Thank you for your time, for allowing me to talk to you about it.
So you're not against it at all, you just wanna make sure that it's.
This, runoff. Because I'm looking at what runoff is now from the canopy that's up there, and thinking about what it was like, whenever I was a child growing up and watching,
You know, you
over my head.
Very good information.
Over my head. That's my concern, that it will tear up the entire water system, including Lake Fork. You got a lot of water rushing against that bank and tearing it out on the Hammond side, what used to be the Lake District properties. And see, you've got this development draining into tributary 2, plus part of the Queen property that they own drains into tributary 2.
I used to have about 15 acres down there, that ran into the same creek. Mhm.
Thank y'all very much, I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you.
One question.
Good stuff.
So,
Yes, yes,
When the current houses on that side of Black Rock School Road were built,
yes,
I'm sure all that was cleared out. Did you
yes.
notice a difference in the runoff then? When it was-
You had a greater runoff when all that was cleared properly. And when it was cultivated, in cotton and corn and wheat, you had tremendous runoff. See, when you're looking at Black Rock, it's here, and everything down the Muddy Fork Creek is an incline.
Mhm.
And you've got a little bit of water on the front of those houses along Black Rock that drain into what I call, that used to be the Kenrick property, but the Dewey Dean estate down that way. But there's very little, that's on that other side of Black Rock draining that way. But from here to Muddy Fork is coming all down here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Upshaw, you have the floor now, if, there's some comments you want to make.
One of the reasons we chose to go with our density cluster is the smaller lot preserves. Everything you see in green is gonna be preserved. So the water, anything coming, will be caught.
Let me interject something here. Richard, can you come and hold that for him?
Sure, get that.
So he can get it on the cameras back there.
Well, in the mic.
And-
The canopy is on that. Everything you see in green will remain.
Okay, if you can go around speaking to the microphone right there, that'd be great.
Okay,
We have people online that,
all right.
there we go.
What you're seeing is currently already approved by the state as far as stormwater control. All of the roads, everything that runs off will go into the pond that's shown on here. We're certainly not averse to adding another pond if you think that's necessary. We want to preserve all of that green space. The walking trail would simply be a trail through the woods. And we really are looking to make a very nice neighborhood. It will not be visible from Black Rock School Road for the most part, because you're looking up a hill and then down into the neighborhood. The tree canopy along the back of the lots on Black Rock School Road will be 10 feet, 20 feet. It's in the knowledge, that's gonna be preserved so that when you're on Black Rock School Road, you do not see a two-story house behind the existing one-story house. Anything you would like us to do as far as making bigger lots will eat into that tree preserve.
And right now you're proposing, what, 100
homes.
100 homes?
Yes. And improving the water infrastructure for this area is part of this subdivision. We have gotten quotes to Brian with the city on taking care of that. And this is Mr. Tom Cutts, he is with Century Homes, and they have agreed to help participate in paying for that infrastructure at the time the lots are purchased. So
Talking about the water line that will have to go in
Yes.
there to increase the pressure.
yes,
Mayor and council, what he's talking about is, from Henry Putnam all the way to Black Rock School Road, and I think it's exactly 1,631 linear feet of 12-inch water line that have to be installed to solve the pressure. And that would have to be done first before we
Will that help with water pressure for the people that already live out there?
Absolutely. Yes. Councilman Davis?
It's like, Gary said, I was not on the city council when the previous two developments were approved. And my concern with rezoning this, first is the existing R12, the houses that are already existing on Black Rock School Road. I am of the opinion that I'm not sure how the density will change, but I think the lower density in this area is gonna be beneficial to the entire community. Because the higher density we get on these developments is gonna impact everything in our community. So I would like to see this remain, what it is, R12. Based on those reasons.
But you're talking about regular R12, not R12 cluster.
Yes. How would that affect the density?
I can,
Construction.
I might can help answer a little bit of that, from speaking to, Russell Wright, our engineer. What he has told me is if they remained R12, as it currently is, obviously they would start building into this open space, the green
Yes.
area.
Yes.
And you would go from probably around 100 houses to around 76 to 80.
Okay, thank you.
But you would lose the open space.
Thank you much.
And that would be the walking trails and the Holden Ponds.
The canopy he's talking about too.
You would lose that.
yeah, lose the walking trails. The ponds would have to stay in order to meet the state storm.
Okay.
If they build a berm, kind of like a terrace, maybe also that.
Be done, yes.
Berm gets some of that water there.
That's all I have to say.
Okay. My question would be, and it's along the same lines as Councilmember Hovis. What is the difference if we did, say, an R12 cluster with 8,000 square feet and still have the 6-foot setback on each side? So it'd be 12 foot between the houses. How would that cut? Would that cut down on the number of houses at 8,000 square feet in an R12 cluster?
It would, or it would cut into the available green space.
How much? Is there any way to?
That's a 33% increase in lot size. So it is definitely going to eat into the green space for, something would have to give. Either the number of lots goes down, or we'll have less green space.
You're talking about a difference of, 2,000
Right.
square foot lots.
Yeah, here we're looking at 6,000 square foot lots, there we'll be looking at 8,000
Eight,
square feet.
okay. So that would be 2,000.
And not only that, though, that changes the road locations, the road would have to be rerouted, and all of that kind of stuff, so you end up with longer roads, and all of the longer roads have the stormwater associated with them also. So that would increase the size of the stormwater system and your ponds.
But yeah, the planning and zoning board may also recommended that we do, is that correct, Richard? The planning and zoning board recommended that we leave that in R12.
I thought they just denied it. Yeah, they didn't.
That would say the same thing when they were,
Yeah, that'd be the same thing.
Mhm. And where you have the cul-de-sac, is that big enough for our city trash trucks and the fire trucks to make that turn?
That's would be big enough for a fire truck, right? Yes. They have to be built for a fire truck access.
Okay.
And we have the two accesses for fire truck access also.
I mentioned too, you did mention R12 to 8,000 square feet, but just plain R9, that's a 9,000 square foot. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Do you plan on moving forward with this development regardless of the zoning?
If you
Or is there a
change,
deal breaker?
it could be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Obviously, the
Land nowadays, you have to get a smaller lot to make it work financially, right?
correct. And a lot of people don't like to maintain a large yard anymore.
We trip that's quick. I hear it from younger people especially. They're like,
Unfortunately, it is the wave of the future.
Are you looking at a homeowners association?
Absolutely.
Because that's where I see some of your problems, sometimes with the density is like, if you don't have a strong homeowners association that prevents on-street parking a lot, there's where you get problems with our fire trucks, our garbage trucks, all that, getting through the neighborhood.
And I had a question along the lines when I read that too about the homeowners association. Would they be dues required for that homeowners association?
Yes,
Okay.
this neighborhood, they would be fairly minimal, probably in the $50 to $75 per month range.
Oh.
Maybe less. It's only members of the neighborhood will serve as the officers. And then they will have annual meetings.
But each lot would be required to be a part of the homeowners association. Okay,
Absolutely.
that's good.
The neighborhood will not have mailboxes. At the first entrance coming up Black Rock School Road, on the right, there's a place there for mailboxes. Cluster mailboxes. So there won't be mail trucks running through the neighborhood every day.
Yeah. Okay, now, sure, chance for any questions from council.
What kind of time frame are you looking at? Get it all unlocked?
2.5 years for full build out.
Yes.
Now, there's one option, we can table it for another meeting, or, I'm just saying it's, we've done it two different developments, and so we can pick it now.
Can we ask questions from the back?
I understand my concern about the density between this will be the third development. And we'll be talking about how many lots in the three developments.
Combined,
The Quinn is 9,500.
you might as well say you're a little over 1,000.
Not at 1,000.
Who is gonna buy these houses?
Across the board, that's more people have someone. Midway Road developments, they're looking at trying to do 100 a year when they get started. True Homes, they said they're trying to do 50 per year when they start. I guess he's looking at 50 per year.
Like I said last time, the more developments, the more competition there is. So I think we're slowing down the development in all three of them. So many buyers. So by having another development, same type homes, it's gonna slow down the development of the other two as well.
Can we speak back? If we got a question, can we come up or?
You have to come to the podium and state your name and address.
Okay. So come up. Come on.
So I'm Sid Strapp and I live at 207 West Academy. I guess the first question I wanted to back up to was, you have a planning board, right? And they have voted against this. And I haven't heard an explanation. Why did they vote against it? Now, it's not, to me, it's not a reason, well, we've already approved two like this. Because we learn as we go along. And I just, to that point, that maybe just, is anybody from the planning commission, I don't know, wait, that can talk about what the negatives, because why have a planning board if you're just going to discuss what they, or have I missed a meeting? Has that been discussed?
No, not at all.
Yeah, so why isn't Richard, well, somebody needs to present what the planning board recommended and why?
That's why I asked that question, why they were.
Yeah, like, I mean, there have to be specific reasons, right? What do you mean?
Three new members on the planning board. Mr. Stout, Ms. Taylor, Chief Executive, and also, Matthew Moon. They just, I guess their country, they just, can't see the development. That's my argument.
Well, I think we need a little bit more than that, Richard. I mean, come on, can somebody speak to what the specifics? I would be asking, like,
I think it all goes back exactly what Richard said, to the size of the lots.
oh, okay, well, now that's
Okay.
different than when they're all three
No
new
more-
people, they don't know what to vote.
More developments like Dewey Bean.
That's
And
me.
then they do the cluster development like the Stratton
Yeah.
and the Requay, but, I mean.
Well, first of all, I have to sort of apologize. I didn't even know, I thought you were talking about the Stratton Estates, because nobody explained. Is this like way up, you go out Delview Road, that kind of thing, and then it's up higher? Well, so, my thing too is you got water now coming off the Stratton Estates, it's coming down, that it also gets Muddy Fork Creek, those tributaries up there. So you gotta sort of look at these two in conjunction as to how much water do they really want to take on? Maybe at, Moss Lake, I didn't even know that they would have a say or a comment on that.
Moss Lake all these years, I think, anyway, it's changed the thing.
No, what he's saying is though, if you don't have it properly with retaining ponds, then you've got all that asphalt, right? You've got all that concrete and all those roofs from those houses. it's like a whole different world than, if the rain's falling on us.
That's why they're leaving that natural area.
Yeah, but that's such a small piece as to what
It's
really,
approved by the state already.
well, approved by the state.
The state's already regulated that.
In conjunction with the scrap, so they looked at it.
That's in and of itself, they've had to regulate and approve the scrap acres.
Yeah, but were they aware that both of those developments, it's not just one, that they are both of them?
I have no idea about
So that's a good question. I think someone needs to ask. That's all I'm saying. And so if nobody can explain a little bit more, that's what I would say is why weren't we listening to what the planning commission said?
Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
I would like to get, a consistent of where each member stands right now to see if we're even close or whether we need to continue this. We can legally continue it for two times, or if not, we're gonna have to make a decision tonight, so I won't need to know where everybody stands at this time. What are you thinking?
Like you, we pretty similar developments already, we have it. Like I said earlier, it's gonna create more competition for these lots of other people, well, you should slow down for the development there. And then they won't be able to 50 or 100 houses.
You don't object to putting another pond in either.
And we certainly want to do everything we can to maintain the We're required to
We have this strong property about.
It's not as steep.
No, it's the grade's not, the gravity's not the same there.
I personally am leaning towards, continuing to get more information and to look at it closer, but that's just my opinion. I don't know that I'm ready to make a qualified judgment.
Okay,
Where's the planning and zoning going to meet with us at work session?
sure. The planning and zoning board, we'd like, maybe to meet with them at the next work session, which would be, the last Tuesday of this month. And then we would bring it back again at next council meeting.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'll have to have it in there.
I like it. Okay.
But,
We got somebody to speak.
My name's Shirley Champion. I live on 209 Black Rock School Road.
Speak.
And I hear him say it's gonna be 2 entrances and outlets. I know the one, it's like 5 houses down on the left. I'm wondering where's the second one?
way down at the end, on the
If
left,
you wanna look right here.
almost at the end, I think they would be,
You'll see his sign.
Oh, where the sign is? I saw it.
You read all his signs?
Okay, so, okay, that's gonna put more traffic on Black Rock School Road, which, once you go on down, it turns into a dirt road. Most of the people don't wanna use the dirt road, mess up your tires or whatnot. It's gonna put more traffic on Black Rock going back out to Deerfield. And I think that need to be considered as well. 100 houses, more people, more buses, more traffic coming down at one small road. So I think that needs to be considered.
Would you take the last one?
Champion, Shirley Champion.
okay, any other citizen that would like to be heard before we exit public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to just ask one question. With the developer, do we have enough room for school buses to turn in that area? Rather than have all those, I think it's dangerous to have all those kids from the development walk all the way out to Blackwell. You can have to think about a 5-year-old, little girl or boy, either one, walking from those developments back out to Blackwell to get on the school bus. It's this day and time, it's dangerous.
If I think if you got a fire truck and a garbage truck They're as big as a school bus and they take as much room to maneuver, so.
It's the old teacher in me thinking about the safety of the child.
That's fine.
In this day and time, we have to think more than we've ever had.
They
I'm
go
not
all the
there
way to the
anymore,
dirt
thank
road.
goodness I'm not, but we have to think about children's safety.
I'm Mandy Harrell and I reside at 404 South Elm Street. I'd like to thank Councilman Hovis for rethinking the lot size, Councilman Freeman for maybe getting input from the Planning and Zoning Board. That's two of my concerns. You've got a board that's, studied this, talked about it, at least know what their concerns are. Also about the lot size, and I'm not against new developments by any means. But we've got so many going in now. I hope there's been a study on the impact of schools.
Yes, thank you.
Being a retired school teacher that's still there, I don't know that our schools right now can just handle the influx of, all of this. So I do think the law.
Earlier, maybe we get a new school in Cherryville.
Well,
Maybe the county,
good luck with that.
maybe the county would listen to us instead of ignoring Cherryville Decimal City. We've always been at the bottom of the poll.
But I would like for y'all to reconsider the lot size. I just think that'll make a big difference on everything with all the concerns tonight. Thank you.
Now, one of the previous, people that had Richard's job too, that was my question to him about our number kit. And once something's approved by the council, is what it's going to be, they notify Gaston County and tell them exactly what streets are coming this way.
Okay, great, because I have not been at the meetings about this.
Yeah.
But it is a big concern, and I'd just like to know some of their numbers and some of the information that they have gotten from the county on that.
Being a teacher.
And they have to do traffic impact studies.
Exactly. But I just think that's important for our citizens to know what's been done and talked about.
That's what the county's always said, there's no brother in Cherryville. Brothers in the eastern, southern parts of the county, that's why they get to school. They get some brothers.
And I'm all for the new growth, I just think a lot at one time is a lot, when you're talking about all these different facets that need to be considered.
Like I said, we have a third development with 100 houses, it's going to slow down the development of the other two, I think.
They're not gonna build 1,000 houses if they're not selling. Because why would you build 1,000 houses to sit empty? It's kinda like what Gary was saying.
And we want a Kramer Mountain High School. We want a Kramer Mountain High
I
School.
like that one like that.
Okay,
We want a Pink Palace in the west.
okay. Any other citizen that would like to be heard in public hearing? Former Mayor Spratt.
Thank you, Mayor. Wade Stroud, at 101C South Elm Street. And in full disclosure, I am one of the newer members of the Planning and Zoning Board here in Cherryville. So just to clarify, my part in those discussions and meetings that we've had and our unanimous vote for denial of this project, and no means am I speaking for the rest of the Planning and Zoning members, and as a newer member and as a member of that board, we would welcome any occasion to meet and discuss this and other planning and zoning topics with the council. In my mind, it was lot size. The city of Cherryville has established this property as R12, 12,000 square foot lots. It has been that way for over 20 years, R12. The developer, the owner of the land, has owned that parcel for over 20 years. So they bought it at R12. They've known for 20 years it's R12. To me personally, it's the egregious nature of this request. We're not going to R15 cluster, or we're not going to 10,000 square foot lots. You're cutting the lot size in half. 50%. All of the neighboring residential areas are R12, or if you go on over to your name, R15. So you're taking an R12 that has been R12 for 20 years, and you're asking to cut it in half. Perhaps if you were asking to go to 10,000 square foot lots, maybe there's some leeway there. But the planning and zoning board was asked to make a ruling on R12 to the R9 cluster, which, you know, all the numbers, but basically we were asked to look at cutting the lot size in half, 12,000 square foot to 6,000 square foot. And to me, that's just incredibly egregious. And as a personal citizen comment, thank you, Ms. Hovis, I agree with you. High density is going to have a negative impact on our city. Whatever's done in the past is in the past. I don't see how you can make a ruling today based on anything else other than this one development. You've heard about water quality, you've heard about school impacts, you've heard about traffic issues. So I would just say that you do need to study it much more. And Ridgeway Road, Strout Park, those are done. Those are done. Let's rule on this, judge on this on its merits alone. Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, if not, do I have a motion from council to exit public hearing at this time? Have a motion second to exit public hearing at this time. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. All opposed, there is none. Okay, now that's open for discussion by council on what they have heard, and we'll listen to your inputs now. And take action from there if you like, or you want to table it, or if you feel comfortable on making a decision tonight.
I'll make a motion to continue this public hearing at our next city council meeting of February. February 12th, 2024.
I have a motion on the floor to table this to our next regular council meeting of February 12th, 2024. I have a second to it. It is still open for any more discussion before we vote.
You still want the planning board there to report this.
Okay, no other discussion? Then we will take the vote now. All in favor of this motion, please do so by saying aye. All opposed, the same. It is unanimous. We will table it to the next council meeting, February the 12th. Okay. We'll go on in our agenda packets. Next item is citizens to be heard. And any citizen that would like to speak at this time may do so by coming to the podium, stating your name and address, and comments will be strictly held to 3 minutes. That doesn't necessarily have to do with the topic we were just on. Anything that you would like to discuss at this time, you may do so by under citizens to be heard. Do I have any citizen that would like to be heard at this time?
I'm just wondering about the dirt road, the dirt part at the upper end of Black Rock School Road. Is it any way that could be paved? Because we got so much traffic coming down, and the speed limit is 35. I'm right there in the middle. They're coming down 55, 45. Police have been out there. They put up signs. None of that helps. But what I'm saying is so much traffic coming down, going toward Bellevue. If that upper dirt road could be paved, it could sort of split the traffic. And maybe could take away some of the speed, because they come in full speed where those new houses are and those apartments that they just put up.
It's not in the city.
Oh, okay.
No, that would be Gadsden County.
Oh, okay.
look at probably the last maybe 2 or 3 of these duplexes that were built there, those are in actually the county.
Oh.
Everything that way towards Cherryville.
Mr. Dalton, Black Rock School Road is a state maintained road all the way through. From Bellevue to Twenty.
Oh, the whole one.
The whole road is state maintained.
Okay, any other citizen like to be heard at this time? Now's your chance. Okay, if not, we'll move on. And next is consideration of council appointments by the mayor. And if you go to page 36 in your agenda packets, this is the appointments I am requesting. And I will read those, terms. The current, appointment for Mayor Pro Tem, I'm asking that we reappoint Councilmember Jill Hewitt. And for ABC Board Liaison, Councilmember John Abernathy. For Appearance Committee and Garden Club, Councilmember Hovis. For the Audit Committee, myself and Councilmember John Abernathy would be chairman for another year. Central Iowa Council of Government would be Councilmember Jill Hewitt and alternate Mayor H.L. Bean. Cemetery Committee Liaison, Councilmember Jill Hewitt. Chamber of Commerce Liaison would be Councilmember Gary Freeman with alternate Councilmember John Abernathy. For the Depot Museum Liaison and Historical Museum, that would be Councilmember Hovis and alternate Councilmember Gary Freeman. The Electric Cities Board would be Mayor H.L. Bean, and the alternate would be City Manager Brian Dalton. Electric Cities Rate Committee, this has to do with the rate that we charge for utilities. That's presented by Electric Cities. Councilmember Jill Hewitt and our city's finance director, Dixie Wall, would be the alternate. For the Fire Department Relief Fund, I understand, board, we have to have 2 members appointed by council, and that would be Councilmember John Abernathy, and they would be co-council members, John Abernathy and Gary Freeman. For the Gaston County Lincoln Transportation Advisory Board, which is better known as MPO, that would be myself, Mayor H.L. Bean, and alternate council member Jill Hewitt. For our Recreation Advisory Committee Liaison, Councilmember Gary Freeman with alternate Councilmember Hovis. For our YMCA Liaison would be Councilmember Gary Freeman and alternate Councilmember Janice Hovis. And finally, for our Main Street Program, Councilmember Jill Hewitt and Councilmember Gary Freeman. With all of these appointments, are you willing to serve? If you're not, I need to know now. Okay. And I would need action from council to accept these appointments for 1 year. Mm-hmm.
Of course, you know, I'm very new to city council. But, and maybe I don't understand how the audit committee works, but if John's gonna be chair of the audit committee, is that not a conflict of interest? Or am I thinking that the audit committee is not what I'm thinking it is? Maybe y'all can,
Audit committee really has no power other than suggestions to the city staff and the finance director. Am I right, Dixie? We don't make any rules or anything. We discuss what our budget is, where the money's being spent, if there's any transferring of money. If say the city wants to buy software to do the utility bills, or if they wanna buy new meters for the water, new meters for the electrical, things like that. then they bring it to the audit committee, and the audit committee discusses whether the funds are available at this time to do that. Then they make a recommendation to the city manager to follow up with this and bring it before council, and then council actually has the vote of whether or not they take any,
Well, I just didn't quite understand maybe how the audit committee functions, but I just thought, well,
I guess the best way to look at it is we have members from the community, assistants,
Patty,
and they get a chance to look at the budget. They get a chance to have the auditor sitting in the same room with them, where they can ask questions and see how the city is operating financially. And citizens get to have some input as far as.
so with a city council member being on the board would not be a conflict of interest.
Well, I think the audit committee mostly cooperates when there is a full audit of their stuff.
right,
There is
exactly.
So there were several inquiries that Dixie and the city council had to provide documents for. And so that was in part with what they were doing. And the council, mayor and council, you all have the authority to appoint committees. That is within the statute.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I'm not questioning that.
I'm not involved in the audit itself. The
Well,
audit's done by Butler and Stowe.
I
The
understand that.
committee just gets to see the results before it's
And you're
presented.
saying there's not a conflict, and I'm okay with it. If you're
Yeah,
telling it
and-
it's not, I'm okay with it.
And the thing about it is, the auditors come to the audit committee first. They come to the audit committee first and say, here's what's going on with your budget, with your audit, here's, if we found anything that we think there could be improvement on, here's a suggestion. And you may wanna, at one time, it was so simple, it was the P cards, not P cards, but the credit cards. We had one person looking over those, when they came back to balance them with the, statement from the credit card company. An audit committee recommendation was that we have two people to do that. So we had to appoint Dixie, who's our finance director, and then Ben Blackburn, at that time was her city manager. He came behind her. So you had two sets of eyes looking at that.
Oh, you're
And
absolutely-
not that there was anything wrong, and there wasn't,
I
but
agree
that's
with
just one example of how that
Well,
audit committee works.
And let me just say, the reason this audit committee was created was because of the investment that
Investment.
happened back
I
in
know
2008.
that, I know that.
And the reality is then Mayor Ostel approached Andy West, and the audit committee was created. And we actually got an award from the state of North Carolina for policy.
Oh, yeah, I think it's a good thing. I just wanted to clear up that situation that it's not a conflict of interest.
You've always had a councilman.
Okay, all right, okay.
Who is on the committee now, and do any of them have a CPA, any kind of financial credential? I mean, who is on the committee now? Because part of what they should be doing is asking technical questions of an accounting nature. This isn't just whatever the auditors say, we approve, right? In the other county where I served on it, we were very active. We had people with accounting backgrounds and that knew how to look at financial statements. You know, that's all I'm asking too. I had asked Brian about that recently. He said they haven't met in a long time, and I was.
Yeah, there were people on that. Bob Ferris was on it, Carolina Freight.
Yeah, but how long has he been gone? I mean, that's what my question is.
That committee needs to be reappointed.
Okay, good.
Because of some,
I think it just went by the way.
Well, and we lost some people, like I said, Patty moved to the bench and she came off.
Ferris said I can't do it more physically, so it does need to be reappointed.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
But there were people like that had that background.
And I think Andy
Well, Andy
was the
West
first
a
chairman, he
CPA.
was a CPA.
Andy was a CPA,
Uh-huh.
as I'm a retired, he was a retired CPA.
Did we just rescind this volunteer?
And like I said, my role was just to lead the meetings. I didn't vote, you know what I'm saying? So.
I know that.
No.
Okay, I'm all right.
Yeah, and I think we would go around the room at the end, and anybody that had any suggestions would make the suggestions. But we do have a motion on the floor and seconded that these appointments be approved as presented. So all in favor of the appointments as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? There is none. Okay, now we will go to other business, item 10 on tonight's agenda. Still gonna make the ball game while we're here.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
The appointments.
For the appointment.
You did, okay.
Who seconded?
Yeah, and Jill made the second.
Okay.
All right. Other business. Council, you have any business you wanna talk about?
I don't wanna delay us seeing the ball game, but I was just gonna ask Brian or the chief, police chief, about our taxi service permit. Is it moving along or where is it?
Excuse me, I received a call from Mr. Bombardier just before Christmas. He said he had already received the criminal histories I asked him to obtain at the courthouse. I have not spoken with him since the Christmas holidays, so I'm not sure where he's at as far as his stuff goes. He hasn't called me in reference to inspecting any cabs or anything like that, so we're kind of still in limbo.
Okay. At least you have been in touch with him.
Yes.
Any other business, council members? I would like, our city manager maybe, can you give us any update on the museum?
Let me say one thing before, because I need to recognize Lance White. He's a local tree contractor that lives here in town. He called me several weeks back. And if you remember back when we had the storm down at the pool, we had, large trees there in the parking lot. And we let people go down and cut on them enough to where they could get some firewood. We got to the point where we couldn't do that anymore, but we had enough large brush there that we couldn't get it up with iron. But he called one day and said, hey, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go down there, I'm gonna clean that up, I'm gonna get it up for the city of no problem. New Year's Day, he sent me a picture of where he cleaned it up, and it was beautiful what he did. He put straw out, he did a great job, and I just want to recognize him first for what he did for the city.
And where he's talking about is right at, Robert Ballard Park.
Why?
Right there at the corner of Rudisill and, 279. Right there at the city pool. Did a great job. It is absolutely beautiful. We need to give him a couple of people's numbers. It has trees in their yard.
In brief, a museum update, we did meet with Mr. Putnam, Councilmember Freeman and Councilwoman Hover. Basically, we talked about going back to when this all started. Palmer Husseller Senior, Jay, he's the charter member of the Historical Association, and he provided some new bylaws and recommended those bylaws be adopted. So we're back basically at that level where we're trying to negotiate with Mr. Putnam to give Lord Pruitt, that are the two members that are left, to adopt the new bylaws and design for the historical museum. But the museum would stay there as is, the material would remain inside, and city council would then, based off the bylaws, appoint a new board for the historical museum. As you know, this afternoon, maybe around 4 o'clock, Mr. Putnam did send a list of items that he wished to have. I think some of you, or most of you, have had a chance to look at some of those, and some of that is not feasible. Some of it, we might could look at, but a lot of it is not feasible. So at this point, I think our best option is to basically go back to where we were and where, when we met with Mr. Putnam last week. Mr. Hufstetter has already given us the paperwork that he recommended we have them signed for the amend the bylaws and where they resign for the historical association, council, that really be appointed. So at this point, I think our best option is to probably, this week, that needs to be done. We'd like to move forward.
I got one question. When y'all met, and I wasn't privy to be there, that meeting, and I have heard some of the discussion that was discussed at that meeting, but was it ever brought up about dropping the lawsuit?
No, I don't remember if ever even talking about the
I told you I wasn't gonna give that penny back as long as that lawsuit is hanging over us. What I'm referring to is a painting that I did for the city back in the early nineties. When I went through the museum, I saw it hanging up high, improperly framed, no mat. You couldn't even see my name on it. And I asked Pat, the director, if I could take it and reframe it. They told her when I got it reframed, I'd bring it back. In the meantime, all this controversy started, and we got sued, and we were told not to have any contact with him. So I told him and I told them all that once it's all settled, I'll give it back to the museum. I really, I don't think I have to. It's got my name on it, and I did it for the city, not for the museum. But I will give it back to them once it's all settled.
Yeah, I personally think we've made our stance very clear. We sent the letter saying that as of December 31st, our lease agreement with them was null and void, and it is currently, so there's no lease agreement in place. I think the relationship between us and that board is fractured beyond repair. And they reach out to us at 4:00 today, wanting to negotiate terms at the last minute. I'm not in favor of that. I'm all in favor of us setting a deadline before we leave here tonight to say, here's our terms. Number one, you adopt the new bylaws. Number two, you resign. And then we will move forward with establishing a new board. So,
We dropped the lawsuit.
Technically, the lawsuit has been.
Lawsuits has been dropped even though the less business is still maybe.
That's still.
Well, it was without prejudice, so it could be refiled. The list pendants have expired, so that will not, as to your question, yes, maybe, it should not impact any of your properties. Those are expired by operation law statute. So it's just like Brian said, technically the lawsuit's dropped.
Okay. I don't understand why they think they can make the agreement when we own the building. And they're telling us what we can do. We need to be telling them what they can do or else. And I think that's basically what John's saying. We put a deadline. What are you thinking about? Maybe a week?
Here we are, January 8th. So I'll go ahead and form this in a motion. I mean, I'm ready.
Okay.
And we'll just see where it goes. So I hereby make a motion that we give the current board of the museum until this Friday at 5:00 to adopt the new bylaws and resign. And if that is not done, then we will formally move forward with eviction of the board. I want to make it clear that we would like for the stuff to stay. We would like for that building to be maintained as a museum. But I do not want to, I think the relationship's too fractured with that board. I want that board to dissolve, us appoint a new one and move on, establishing a new lease and new agreements with that new board.
I'll second.
Okay. So the deadline will now be, what date will that be? This coming Friday? If we do not, if that board has not resigned,
5:00.
then we start the proper legal procedure of evicting them, that board, from the buildings. with all artifacts remaining in the building. If I left anything out, cause I wanna get it exactly the way you want it worded, for our minutes, exactly. And, okay, so we got that on, a motion and a second. Any other discussion by council?
Can I interject this one?
Yes,
This Friday at the deadline at 5 o'clock, to lock the door.
absolutely. Nobody in there. They shouldn't be in the building, period. I mean, that's my opinion.
Why not now? Lock it now.
The rule is that you can only do that, which is called self-help eviction, so long as it does not breach the peace. So, and breach the peace is a pretty low threshold. So if they protest and say, no, you can't put the locks on the doors, the courts have recognized that that's enough to say that that would be a breach of peace. So I suggest we serve them with eviction before we lock in doors. Just so that we are making sure that.
What's the process for that?
We will have to provide we'll have to go to the court and file a summary ejectment motion. And then there will be a hearing set within 20 days of that motion. They will be served with that, and they can remain in possession during this time. And then the magistrate will hear our case, and they will make a ruling. And then they're given 10 days to appeal, 7 days to appeal. And if they do not appeal on the 8th day, business day, then you can get the sheriff to force the clear.
I have a question. Who are we evicting? Are we evicting the hysterical? Are we evicting the board members? I mean, who are we evicting, actually?
Our lease is with the historical society.
The association.
And there's only two members.
Board members. I thought it was very, few.
Really?
But the rest of them have already resigned.
Okay, so we'll be evicting.
I have a question for city attorney. You said they could still have possession of the building and it could be up to 20 days before it's served. Can they remove any of the artifacts? Who really owns those artifacts?
That's a good question, Mr. Bean. I haven't seen anything.
It's the association.
Remember Papa Senior, when he come and talked to us originally, he clearly told us that the association owned the artifacts.
Except the fire truck. Fire truck belongs to city jail.
But they own the whole.
See, I've heard people say, I only loaned them something to use in that museum, and it was with a handshake or by word of mouth that they could put my prom dress up, say, and display, but I still own it. My sister has a picture as big as the seal of Cherryville there of her when she was administrator of Carolina Care Center. She only loaned it to her. She didn't give it to them. So what happens if they take that
In my
out of it?
opinion, that's not a legal battle that the city needs to get involved in. That's between that individual and that association.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
Okay, if that's the case, then I think we need to proceed with haste. If we can get this settled by Friday,
Friday.
we need to get new board members and proceed with haste.
And I'm guessing if the current board members would come in tomorrow or whatever and amend the bylaws and resign, then we're good. We don't need to go forward with anything.
Exactly.
We're good.
That would be ideal if we can reach a mutually agreeable.
Wishful thinking.
Yes.
Let me ask a question. You went as the police chief. He went and filed a report that I'd stolen that painting You wouldn't found out that I didn't, right?
Correct.
Can I file a report on him with filing false report?
Retaliation is not really a crime. So, no, I would say we would not file that report. I mean, as far as, because we know that report's already been filed here, and we would know at that point that it was basically a retaliation. So, no, I would say that we would not file that report. I'm sorry, basically you would be retaliating against him at that point, so, yeah, we would not.
You wouldn't take my.
Not for that incident.
Okay, we still have a motion and a second on the floor, and that is to proceed with the eviction of the Historical Association from the building 109 East Main. So, all in favor of this motion, say so by aye. And all opposed, the same. And there is none. It is unanimous. So, we'll get that proceeding on the way and put that deadline of Friday. Okay, any other business? Is there any business from staff that they'd like to bring up?
The gym, Custom has started submitting the plan, the permit award. We do have a couple things that the county has bounced back to us, so we sent the plans back to the engineer to get them to make a few changes that the county has asked for, and then hopefully we'll have the permit.
Is it not the very same plans that Stanley had?
Don't get me into that.
I mean, is Stanley not in Garrison County?
I've asked that question one time. How do you deny a permit? Building that you've already approved, and it's the same engineer, same plan. I don't know how to answer.
All right, anything else come before council tonight? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion for adjournment, I have a second. Motion second, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. All opposed, we're adjourned.